data and we need to train a CNN model from scratch? No, it is not required. We can take the models which are trained on the bigger corpus, and we can apply transfer learning on our data sets, like it's a custom data sets. So for that, we have a pre-trained architectures are available, where you can take those pre-trained architectures and you can work on the small amount of data. So it is like a transfer learning with a convolution neural network. So I'll show how the transfer learning work with the CNNs. So it is like it is AlexNet is a pre-trained architecture. AlexNet architecture proposed by Google. So for AlexNet, the input size is 224 by 224. So it is a fixed already. So AlexNet, what they did is, so they are having a certain number of convolution layers and pooling layers and two fully connected layers. With that, they achieved 90% accuracy on the ImageNet dataset. So the architecture is fixed now, and even weights also available from that architecture. Now you want to apply AlexNet on your dataset. What we have to do is we will take the AlexNet architecture and we'll take the AlexNet weights. The only changes what we need to do is at the input, we need to provide our data set. Let's say, suppose your image, your data set contain images of size 500 by 500. So can we pass directly 500 by 500? No, because AlexNet input size is 224 by 224. So you need to resize your image to 224 by 224. Tomorrow you are using another architecture, and that architecture input image size is 331 by 331. So at that time, again you need to change your image size to 331 by 331. So it's all depend upon what architecture you are using. Suppose if you are using AlexNet, image size is 224 by 224. If you are using the exception net, it will be 299 by 299. If you are using the RegNet, again it will be 224 by 224. It's all depend upon the what kind of architecture you are using. So transfer learning with CNN. So this is a image classification problem. So in this case, we are providing our data set to AlexNet model and we are classifying it. So the changes, what changes we need to do, so that I will explain in the later slides. This is like a image retrieval problem. So we are giving the test image and we are retrieving the nearest images. So now, we will take this architecture, then how we can apply using this architecture on our data set. So here, so we are passing an image. Now, if you look at this architecture, we are passing an image, and first is a convolution layer. How many filters? 64 filters. Again, they applied a convolution layer of 64 filters. Then max pooling layer, convolution 128 filters, convolution 128 filters, max pooling, convolution 256 filters, 256 filters, max pooling, again convolution 512, max pooling. And once the max pooling is done here, there are two fully connected layers, and the last fully connected layer is nothing but a output layer which contains 1000 classes. So that means 1000 neurons. So it is a 1000 class classification problem. Okay, this is a pre-trained architecture. So the first image what you are looking here, this one is trained on the millions of images, and those images are from the ImageNet, and it is a 1000 class classification problem. Now, how we will take this architecture and try to apply on your data set? Okay, so what changes you need to do is, the only changes what we need to do from this architecture is, so at the input image, you need to provide your image, and the image size is fixed. So whatever you used in the first, so the training process, so your image size is 224 by 224. Even in your data set also, you have to convert all the images to 224 by 224. The size should be same. And at the last layer, so we change the last layer. So instead of FC 1000, suppose your data set is only having a 3 classes or 10 classes. So what you have to do, you just have to change the last layer. So rather than 1000 neurons, you just keep 10 neurons in your architecture. That's it. So rest of all the things are same. So these weights we are using from the pre-trained ImageNet model. So the weights are freezed here. Only we need to learn input. At the input, we need to pass our data set. And the last FC layer is nothing but last output layer. We need to change the number of neurons. But the rest of architecture is same. So we are taking the same architecture. We are taking the same weights. The only changes we are doing is we are providing our input, and the last layer we are changing as our number of classes. So here any doubts here?
No, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So fine tuned from AlexNet. So these are the so here what they did is AlexNet. They took the AlexNet FC6. FC6 means fully connected layer. FC1, FC2. So these are the layer numbers. So if you take the AlexNet FC6, and after that they apply the logistic regression. Rather than that, if you can take AlexNet and if you can just directly do the classification on the this architecture itself, you can see the difference. Okay, so I will explain what is happening here. Okay, so what is happening here is, so look at this image. So we are giving an image here, and FC. So we have two fully connected layers. So what is the FC contains how many neurons? We have a 4096 neurons, right? So this is the first FC, and even in second FC also we have how many neurons? We have a 4096 neurons, and the last FC layer contains 1000 neurons. So those 1000 neurons are nothing but a number of classes. Okay, so what exactly it is saying? If I give image as an input at the first, if I give image to architecture, a CNN architecture, so what is happening is I'm getting 1000 classes. So it is like a out of 1000 classes, if you apply softmax probability, you get a one particular class. Yeah. Now see, I don't bother about this last layer. Now I will only take this layer. So how many neurons are present in the last FC layer? It contains 4096 neurons. That means image 1, the size is 224 by 224 by 3. So this is my input image size, and it got reduced to, so it is like a latent representation of that image. Now image 1 size is only 4096 neurons. Okay, so this is the representation of image 1. Okay, no need to bother about now my image size, because I gave this image to architecture. Last FC layer is providing 4096 neurons. Now what we will do, suppose if we have 10,000 images, now we will pass the 10,000 images to this architecture. Then for each image we are getting 4096 neurons. Then 10,000 images will get a 10,000 by 4096 dimension. Okay, this we can call it as a X. So this is our feature vector. Now what is our Y? So every image we have labels, right? So 10,000 by your labels. So it will be dimension of 1. So it contains suppose 3 classes or 5 classes. So those categories will be there. Now you have X and you have Y. Now what is your job is you can apply simple logistic regression. Okay, you can apply simple logistic regression. So this is one way to train the model. So what we are doing here, we are giving image to a pre-trained architecture, and we are only taking at the last FC layer, which contains a 4096 neurons. So that is nothing but if I can pass 10,000 images, it will be 10,000 by 4096, and I'm having the 10,000 classes. Once if you have features and Y, you can apply logistic regression. This is one way of getting the result. So what is the second way? Second way is, I think first one is clear, right? For everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So in case of second case, so second case, what we are doing is we are just changing the last FC layer. So rather than 1,000 neurons, we are keeping the maybe 10 neurons. Suppose ours is a 10 class problem. Now what we are doing is we are retraining again. So retraining means so we are fine tuning the model. We are taking the same architecture, same weights. So where weights get updated, the only weights updated from the last FC layer to our output layer. So here only weights get updated because here only we created a new randomly initialized weights, because rest of the weights we are taking as it is from the pre-trained architecture. Okay, so if you go in this way, so this is like the same deep learning architecture we are fine tuning on our data set. So in that case, okay, they're getting 64.96. So if you go with this approach, like if you take a last FC layer neurons and if you apply logistic regression, you're getting 59% accuracy. If you go with the AlexNet architecture and if you fine tune it, so like only last FC layer, we are keeping our number of classes and you can start training again. You are getting 65% accuracy. So we have two approaches. So we can choose whatever the way we want.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, what is the meaning of DPD in that figure?
Yeah. So DPD is nothing but DPD is nothing but it's a person name. So AlexNet is like architecture, right? Even a DPD is another architecture. Spoof is a architecture. So these are architecture names. So suppose if you see AlexNet is the AlexNet architecture proposed by a person Alex. So DPD is nothing but discriminative path descriptor. So that is also another architecture proposed by Jan. So
So,
these are yeah.
so in 64.96%, they have combined the AlexNet FC6 plus DPD.
Yes. So when they combined AlexNet FC6, AlexNet FC6 means 4096 features. They combined with discriminated like these are the descriptors. See, it is like AlexNet FC6 plus logistic regression means you are taking the FC 4096 features and you are applying the logistic regression. That is a one way. So second one is you are taking the AlexNet FC6 4096 and you are going with the this descriptors format. There you are getting the 64.96. So the DPD paper, whatever he mentioned here, right, Jang paper. So from that they are taking the they are following that approach. So the descriptors they are combining with the AlexNet features.
Okay, sir.
So in earlier slides, yeah. So the coming slides I will show what exactly it is happening, because of the coming slides all things are there. Okay, so this is on the small data set. In case of small data set, you not only need to change at the last FC layer. What if you are having a bigger data set? So when you are having the bigger data set, you need to train the even FC layers as well. Okay, So in case of small data set, you just need to train only at the output layer. In case of bigger data set, you can train the even all the FC layers as well. But you can keep the rest of the architecture same. Okay, so these freeze options will be available in Keras. So like when you are using the architectures, you have the option that whether you want to freeze it or whether you want to train it, up to what layer you want to train, up to what layer you want to freeze. Those options are available. Okay. So transfer learning with CNNs, very little data, very similar data set. Again, very little data, very different data set. So it's like a more specific, more generic. Suppose if you are going with a small data set and it is a very similar data set, what we need to freeze and what we need to train. Suppose if it is a completely different data set, then because see, the ImageNet data set is contain all the natural images. So even if your data is also similar of natural images, then you don't need to reinitialize it. You can directly freeze the complete architecture. Only FC layer we need to. If you are using similar data set, I think you don't need to even freeze it because the number of classes are same. Different data set, that means your classes are entirely different from the architecture what you are using. So FC layer you need to change. Quite a lot of data. So now we are having a lot of data, but again it is a similar data set. So you are having another data set which contains natural images. Still you can use the same architecture. Now if you are having quite a lot of data, very different data set, means you have to completely train the model again. Like take the existing architecture and you have retraining all the layers. So what I did, like for my medical imaging data set, I completely retrained the using the existing models. I retrained all the layers again. Okay, so fine tune linear classifier on top layer, fine tune only few layers. You are in a trouble. So this is like a what kind of data you are using. So based on that, whether you have to keep a few layers in freeze or few layers you need to train. That's all depend on the data set you are using. Yeah. So before going to here, I'll show hands-on. If you have any questions here, you can raise the questions. So everyone is familiar with the Keras and Python, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah. So here, image classification normally we can do in three ways. That too depend upon the number of samples. Okay, so the image classification problem is depend upon the number of samples you are using. Suppose your data set is too small, or your data set is contains 5,000 images or 10,000 images. We can go with one approach. Suppose if you are having 1 lakh images or 2 lakh images, we can have two other approaches are available. So I can show all those approaches how we can apply. So, and one more thing, if you are using TensorFlow 2.0, then you have to import the, so everyone is able to see my screen, right? So the brain tumor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So if you are using TensorFlow 2.0 above, then you have to import the statements like this from TensorFlow.keras. Okay, so from TensorFlow.keras.layers. So this is the way you have to import these statements. If you are using the TensorFlow 2.0 plus version. If you are using below TensorFlow, like if you are using a TensorFlow like 1.9, 1.8, at that time, you no need to write like this. So TensorFlow dot something, you can directly pass Keras dot layers. Okay, Keras dot layers, Keras dot batch normalization. So all those things you can directly pass. Okay, so here what I am passing is so CV2 is the library, so computer vision library. We can mainly use for the reading the images, resizing the images. So this is a CV2 library, so very popular library. And people all know that sklearn library, so for machine learning. And here I'm importing the model as sequential because my model is a sequential model because it's an input to hidden, hidden to hidden, hidden to hidden, and finally output. So this all going in a sequential process. Then convolution 2D. Convolution 2D is nothing but since we are applying on the images, like it's a 2D images, so that is why it's a convolution 2D. Suppose someone is interested in working on text data. So text data is like a, for every sentence or document, you will get a one-dimensional vector. It's not a two-dimensional. At that time, you have to use convolution 1D. Some people may use 3D images, like if you take a brain data, so it will be a volume, 3D volume. So at that time, you have to go with the convolution 3D. So all the options. So dropout is mainly for the regularization. So to avoid overfitting, we can use a dropout. So the advantage with the dropout is, let's say you are having one layer is having 1,000 neurons. What dropout will do is, suppose if you mention dropout as a 0.5, that means you are not using all the 1,000 neurons in the training. You are using only 500 neurons in the training, and the rest of the 500 neurons will be off. Off means we are not using those connections. So it is like a on and off. So every time in the training process, we are not keeping all the neurons active. Only 50% of the neurons will be active and the rest of the 50% neurons will be inactive. So forward propagation, back propagation. Next time, next iteration, another 500 neurons will be active and rest of the neurons will be inactive. So this is how the model training happens. So it is like you are not using all the neurons in the model, still you are getting the results. That is like you are solving the regularization problem. So like you have to avoid overfitting. So dense layer is like nothing but a fully connected layer, and the max pooling is nothing but our pooling layer. So I mentioned batch normalization. It is mainly to normalize a batch of images. And flattening is like so if you suppose if you have an image like I showed an example, right? 28 by 28 by 1. If you apply flattening, you get a one-dimensional vector which is of 784. Okay, so I imported all the layers. So now I'm having a data set. So suppose if I can go to my data set. Yeah, so this is my data set, and it is having two folders. So no is a one folder. So here I'm having a brain tumor images. And what we need to do is, if I give a tumor image, like if I give an image, we need to classify whether the image contains tumor or not. So this is like a no category images, and second one is a S category images. Okay, we have two folders which are related to S class and images which are related to no class. So I'm passing I'm just want to see like os.list directory. What it will do is it will display all the images in that particular folder. Yeah, now what I'm doing, first I'm reading the S class directory. So where all the images which contain tumor, I'm reading images from that folder using CV2 library. So cv2.imread, it will read the image, and I'm resizing the image. So this I mentioned, right? So suppose you are using a AlexNet architecture. The AlexNet architecture image size is 224 by 224, but your data set contain images of various sizes. So when you're reading the image itself, at the time you can mention the what size of you want. So suppose you want to 224 by 224, then the image will be resized to 224 by 224. Okay, so I am reading the image and I am appending to X. So now X contain all the images and Y contain labels. So since if it is a S class, I am adding a label as 1, and similarly I am reading the images from no class folder, and using the CV2 you can read the image, and the Y label is nothing but 0. Okay, so if you want to see this process like loading the imaging process, we can use the library called TQDM. So TQDM is the library. It will show the progress, that how much percentage of the images you read till now. So the TQDM will show this way of processing progress bars. Now I'm having now X and Y. So X contain images and Y contain my labels. If you want to plot some of the images, we can visualize these images like this. So this is my X and I'm displaying 4 images. And I given a color map as a gray. Gray color map means I want to visualize the images in a black and white format. So if you can give this color map, you can visualize like this. Okay, then now okay, someone asked like how many images are present in X and how many images are present in Y. I want to see the overall dataset size. So it will be okay. So total number of images are 253, and each image size is 28 by 28 by 3. Okay. Now we are applying the train test split, and so 1/3 of the data we are keeping in testing, and 2/3 of the data we are taking into training. So X train, X test, and Y train, Y test. So where I am passing X and Y. So it will be, so size of each image is 28 by 28 by 3. So next I'm applying the label encoding, because here you have two options. If you want to go as it is, like if you want to pass Y, because it's Y is a binary classification problem, one way is you can keep at the last output layer, you can keep only one neuron. At the time you need to pass activation function as sigmoid. Instead of that, if you want to keep the number of classes, say it's a binary classification problem, so you want to keep 2 neurons, at that time you have to go with the softmax. So the last function will be categorical cross entropy. So if you are using sigmoid activation function, then the number of neurons will be 1 and the loss function will be binary cross entropy. If you are using the number of classes as it is, then activation function will be softmax and the loss will be categorical cross entropy. Okay, so that's the reason what we are doing is we are converting our Y into one hot vector. Okay, so one hot vector means wherever the class 1 is present, that particular column will be filled with ones, and wherever 0 class is present, that column will be filled with the ones. So we need to define keras. Import keras. Okay, so I will show what exactly Y train and Y test look like. Okay, if you look at the for 10 images, see, so 0, 1 point, so this is like a one hot encoding. So the first image contains the second column having 1. That means it is a class of one category. So class of one category, class of one category. Now, if you look at the fourth image, so it is having a 0th place 1. So that means it is belongs to class of 0 category. Okay, so wherever the image belongs to 0 class, we will get a 1 set of first column. Wherever the image belongs to S class, we will get a 1 set the second column. Okay, so this is like a one hot encoding. Yeah. So now till now our data is ready. So we have X and Y, even we have X train, Y train, X test and Y test. Now we need to write a CNN layers. So first one is a sequential. So it is always sequential because the entire process is happening sequentially. Input to hidden, hidden to hidden, and hidden to output. It's a sequential process. Batch normalization. So I already mentioned why we have to apply batch normalization. So we are normalizing the batch of images so that the range of values will be between the range of values between, it will follow 0 to 1, and also the convergence will be faster. So here my image size is 28 by 28 by 3. Yeah. Now we will take this each step and how much we will get. Okay, so the first we are doing is convolution 2D layer, and how many filters? The number of filters are 32, and the filter size is 3 by 3 by, and I already mentioned the filter depth will be always same as the image depth. So in our case, the image depth is 3. So we will get this is the original filter size 3 by 3 by 3, and number of filters are 32. So what will happen of the first step? What is the formula? It will be image size minus filter size divided by stride plus 1. So we will get a 26. So at the end of the first convolution layer, our dimension, our output will be 26 by 26 by, and how many filters we used? 32 filters. So this is the output. Okay. So 26 by 26 by 32 is the output after applying the first convolution layer. And here we are mentioning activation function as ReLU. That means whatever the output you got, you are passing this output to activation function ReLU, which is nothing but max of 0 comma x. Okay. So again, when you apply the activation function, your dimension, it will not change. Again, you will get a 26 by 26 by 32. So this is the first convolution layer. So then next you are applying the pooling layer. So in pooling layer, what we are doing, we are downsampling the image. Downsampling means your image will get a half. So it will be 13 by 13 by 32. So I mentioned when you apply pooling, it only apply on the width and height, not on the depth. So this is the, after applying the first convolution and pooling, we are getting 13 by 13 by 32. So next we are going with another second convolution. There the number of filters are 64. Filter size is 4 by 4 and the padding is same. So how we will get here? It will be, so 13 minus 4, right? Because our input now, our image size is 13 minus what is the kernel size 4 divided by stride plus 1. So now what we are getting? We are getting 10 by 10 by, how many such filters are available at the second convolution? We have 64 filters. Then we'll get a depth as a number of filters. So 10 by 10 by 64. Okay. Then we are applying pooling layer again. So then the image will get half. So it will be 5 by 5 by 64. So at the end of the second pooling layer, our dimension will be 5 by 5 by 64. Okay, so then again they apply the convolution. So the next time it will be kernel size of 3. So then it will become, so 5 minus 3, okay, divided by 1 plus 1. Okay, 5 minus 3 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3. So it will be 3 by, okay, 3 by, then the number of filters are how many here? It will be 128. So we will consider it as a 128. Okay, so then we have to apply pooling. But when you apply pooling, so 3 by 2, we will not get an integer value. So we will apply padding. Okay, so then only the we will get an integer value. Okay. So similarly, so that is why. So here padding means, so whenever the division is not working, we will add a dummy zeros to the model, like to the input image. Then the process will be like here we will get the until unless where we getting the integer value. So this process is repeated. Finally, so they are flattening it, and so here we will get a flattened vector. Now we don't have no more image format. It is completely into a single dimension vector. Okay, so let's say we have 256 neurons we got when we flatten it, and we added dense layers. So one fully connected layer contains 128 neurons, another layer contains 64 neurons, another layer contains 32 neurons, and finally this is our output layer where I kept the number of classes. So it is a 2 classes, and the activation function is softmax. Okay, so this is, we define our own. So here whatever the convolution or pooling, dropout, dense, everything we are returning our own. We are not following any architecture. Okay, so then we are compiling our model. So optimizer is ADAM. So normally we have different optimizers are available, like stochastic gradient descent, then RMS prop, ADA delta, ADAM. These are the optimizers. So based on the optimizers, the convergence will be slow or fast. If you take a stochastic gradient descent, then the convergence will be slow. So there you need to adjust the parameters like learning rate or momentum kind of things. The loss is categorical Cas entropy, and metrics. So whether you want to go with the precision or recall or accuracy F1 score, so you can mention that metric. And next one is history. So here we are fitting our model. So M1 dot fit. So here we have to pass X train, Y train, and number of epochs. How many epochs we need to train? One epoch means all the images training will happen. So one epoch means, suppose if you have 500 images, then all the 500 images forward and back propagation will be happen. That is nothing but one complete epoch. Validation is whatever the after end of the first epoch, we take that model and try to apply on the test data. So that is nothing but X test and Y test. It's nothing but a validation. If you keep verbose equal to 1, then only we can see the progress. If you mention verbose equal to 0, we will not see the progress bar. Okay, yeah, so the training is happening now. Yes, so we got a, now if you look at the training things, so the loss is, this is nothing but training loss, and the accuracy, whatever the first one is the training accuracy, and we have validation loss and also validation accuracy. Okay, so when then how we can see whether the model is overfitting, and when to stop the training process. So that based on the, suppose if your training accuracy is increasing and validation accuracy is not increasing or it is decreasing, then the model is overfitting. And similarly in case of loss as well. If your training loss is decreasing but validation loss is not decreasing, again it's a overfitting problem. So using early stopping, we can avoid the overfitting problem. So suppose if I want to draw the plots, so this is my validation accuracy plot. So this is how the validation accuracy went. And in case of training accuracy, so this is my training accuracy. So initially in case of validation accuracy, from the 7th epoch onwards, it increased. Okay, then it got stabilized, like from the 8th epoch onwards, it got saturated. Okay, up to there it's going up and downs. This is our training accuracy. And also you can visualize the loss as well. So this is the train, one is a training loss and one is a validation loss. The blue line is a training loss, so it's going in a decreasing fashion, and validation loss is going fluctuating. So though it is decreasing, but it is fluctuating. Suppose you want to predict on the test data, what we have to do is we have to take our model and we have to pass our test data. Then you'll get a two probabilities for each image because we have two classes. If we apply argmax function from the two probabilities, wherever we got the higher probability, we get that particular class index. So that is nothing but y actual. Okay, so then we will predict the loss between actual and predicted. Okay, so this is like a displaying. So the actual image, so for this tumor image, this image, actual class is 0, but our model predicted 1. Suppose for this image, the actual label is 1, even model predicted as 1. And even for this image, actual is 1 and predicted as 1. And here, actual is 0, but model predicted as 1. If you want to see the classification report, so we are getting F1 score of 64. So macro average. So this is the one way to train a image classification model when you are having a limited number of samples. So you can directly read the images into the memory and you can go with the training. So up to here, clear? Anyone having doubts? Anyone is having doubts?
No, sir, it is. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So this is that is the first approach to train a image classification model. Now we have a second approach. So I will not read images now into the memory. We can directly we have an option. So it is like a flow from directory option. So in case of flow from directory option, you need to follow a directory structure. So the directory structure will be look like this. Suppose if you are having 10 classes, then you need to create 10 folders. Okay. Suppose you are having 100 classes, then you need to create 100 folders. Okay. Each folder is belongs to one class. Say no, here in my data set, I'm having two classes. So that is why I'm having two folders. So first folder is belongs to no class, it contain all the images, and second folder is S class, it contain all the images. Tomorrow, if you're having a new class came, then you need to create a new folder and you need to keep all the those class images into the new class. Okay. So the number of class, if you have n number of classes, you need to create n number of folders in a directory, and you need to keep those images into that particular directory. Okay, so the rest of the things are same. So here also we need to whether we have to go with a TensorFlow 2.0 or TensorFlow 1.9 or 1.8 something. So my system contains TensorFlow 1.15. So that is why I am just replacing with the Keras itself. Yeah, so the import statement's done. Yeah. Now you want to apply some of the techniques, like when you're having the small number of samples. Now you want to apply some data augmentation. So data augmentation means you want to rotate the image, or you want to apply the scaling the image. You want to shift the image, like right shift or left shift, and also you want to flip the image. So the same image, now you are applying some operations on the image to get a more images. So for that, we have the image generator option is there, image data generator. So in case of image generator, so we need to pass these parameters. So width shift, we want to shift the width of the image, and height shift, rescaling. So we are scaling the image. So every pixel is divided by 1 by 255. So shear range means you are compressing the image. Zoom range, so you are zooming the image. Rotation image, you are rotating the image. Validation split. So validation split means if you look at the folder, I don't have any train folder and test folder. I'm having a one folder which contain all the class directories. So that is why you can mention here itself that how much you want to split the data into training and testing. So if you can give a validation split of 0.2, that means 80% of the data goes into the training and 20% of the data goes into the testing. Okay. So now this is our train data gen, which contain all the image data generator options with this. So these are the data augmentation techniques. So if you want to increase the more number of images, so this is the way we can generate the images. Now we will take that train data gen. Okay, train data gen. Then flow from directory. So flow from directory, in that we need to give our directory path. So here the directory path is nothing but data set, and it contains brain tumor data set. Okay, so if you look at the here, so here I am. So this is the brain tumor data set. So currently I am in this folder, so I am giving / data set and brain tumor data set. So these are the two folders I need to work on. So that is why I gave that path. And the target size. Yeah, now I am here using the pre-trained architecture. So whatever the architectures earlier trained on some ImageNet data sets, now I'm going to use that architecture here. So I mentioned the architecture, whatever I am using, that image size is 224 by 224. So that is the reason I change the dimension to 224 by 224. Color mode is RGB. Then batch size. So every time how many images you want to load into the memory. So you want to load 32 images. So it is a mini batch size of 32. So which problem? So whether it is a classification problem or it's a regression problem. So suppose if it is a multi-class problem or if it is a binary problem, you can go with categorical, and even you have binary option is there. Suppose if it is a regression problem, then your class mode will be raw, RAW, raw. So if it is a regression problem, so this is the class mode you want to mention if it is a regression problem. This was the regression. Then shuffle. So you want to shuffle the data set? Yes. Then so this is comes under training. So I mentioned right already the validation split of 0.2. So whenever you mention subset is equal to training, so this data will go to the training set. So 203 images belongs to two classes. These images will go to the training. The only difference between the earlier one and here is if you mention subset is equal to validation, then it will come under validation subset. Okay, so this is a 50 images. So I kept 203 images in the training and 50 images into the validation or testing. And the batch size is 32, number of epochs is 10, image width is 299 and image height is 299. So yeah, now look at here, exception. I am using the exception architecture. Okay, we'll go to the exception now. So now if you look at the exception architecture, so what is the image size for the exception? It will be 299 by 299 by 3. So the for exception architecture, the image size is 299 by 299 by 3. So that is the reason I mentioned here image width and height as 299 and 299. Automatically it get resized. So whatever the size you mention, it will get resized. So I am using a exception architecture, and the input image size is 299 by 299 by 3. And where you are taking the weights, you are taking the ImageNet weights and include top is equal to false. If you mention include top equal to false, that means except last output layer, you are taking everything. Okay, if you mention include top equal to false, except last output layer, you are taking the complete architecture. Okay, so this is what. So if you look at this exception architecture, you are taking complete architecture, only last output layer you are not taking. That's it. Okay, so that is our base model. whatever the base model output that we are assigning it to X. Okay, up to here it is a exception architecture output. Then now I am writing my own layers. Whatever the output I got from the exception, now I am applying a global average pooling 2D. Then after that I wrote a dense layer. Finally, I wrote another dense layer, which is a output layer, and the activation function is softmax. So if you see, if you look at this architecture, only these 3 lines only I wrote my own. So rest of the layers I took it from the exception architecture. Okay, so tomorrow you want to go with some other architecture. The only thing is you need to replace the architecture. So how one can use it is, so this is the way. So from keras.applications, suppose if you want to use inception, then you can go with the inception. Suppose if you want to go with AlexNet, from keras.applications AlexNet, then import AlexNet. So that is the way we can change the pre-trained architectures. Then so I need to run this. Then I'm doing the model compile. In case of model compile, my optimizer, this time I consider ADA delta, and I am passing the learning rate as 0.01001. Then the loss is categorical cost entropy, and metrics is accuracy. Then now I want to save my model, so that is why I given the model save path. So in case of model save path, here I'm saving epoch number and also validation accuracy. So suppose at the third epoch we got a validation accuracy of 67%, then that model get saved. So if validation accuracy increasing at a epoch, then only the model get saved. Suppose at the 5th epoch you got 80% accuracy, and in the 7th epoch you got 69%. So that means which is lesser than the earlier epoch, then the model it will not get saved. We will only keep the best model always. So we have the model checkpoint and the early stopping. So in case of early stopping, if you look at the validation loss, under patience you mentioned 20. So what it means, continuously 20 epochs, if validation loss is not improving, then your model training will get stopped. Okay, so the patience is nothing but continuously 20 epochs. If validation loss is not improved, then the training process automatically get stopped. Okay, so the patience is nothing but this one. If you mention 5, means after 5 epochs, if continuously 5 epochs validation loss not improved, then the model training get stopped. So that is the patience number. So I need to define keras. Import keras. Okay, so this is my architecture. Now if you look at the model architecture, input layer contains 299 by 299 by 3. None is nothing but a batch size. Then we have a convolution 2D, put batch normalization. They're applying the activation function, again conv 2D. So if you look at the image size, every time when we apply convolution, automatically the image size is reducing. So 147 came to 74, 37, then finally 19 came to again up to what it came. So finally, yeah, so 19, yeah, it reduced to 10 by 10 by 2048. And finally, when we apply global pooling, we are getting 2048. Okay, so up to here, this is the exception output. From here onwards, whatever the layer I added. So I added global average pooling 2D layer. So it is, we are getting 2048. And I added a dense layer of 1000 neurons. So this is the one. And finally, dense layer of 2 neurons. This is my last output layer. So the last 3 layers only I created, but the rest of the architecture came from exception. Now, in case of model fit, so earlier we used model fit. Now we have to use model fit generator. So the generator is nothing but it's a train generator, and validation is coming from the validation generator. A number of epochs is nothing but our number of samples by, so train generator by batch size. So suppose if you have 1000 examples, and you given a batch size of 32, then 1000 by 32. So those many batches steps you need to perform per epoch. Okay, so what image size you given? Okay, so I think here I need to give 299 by 299. So this is also 299 by 299. So I told you, right? So if we are not passing the proper image size, you will get a error, because exception architecture expects input image size of 299 by 299. So any questions up to here? So you can see the difference between last image classification approach and this one. So this is the better way to do the image classification. If you have a millions of images, so this is the better way to train the model. Okay. Any questions?
Yes, any questions from audience? I think no questions.
Yeah. So we have a so someone come up with a question, say I don't have images in a folders in a proper format. So it is like, so the approach what I like just now we explored, in that all the images follow a folder structure. So every class contain a folder, and we need to present all those images into that particular folder, class folder. But suppose we don't have that kind of folder structure. Now all the images are present in one folder itself. Okay, so then how we can apply image classification problem? So because I don't have any folder structure, all the images are present in the single folder itself, then how can I apply again image classification problem? So in that case, yeah, so when you don't have folder structure, so you can still use a data frame option. So how we can go with the data frame option? So I'll go away, I'll show a CSV file. Yeah. So when you don't have folder structure, you can go with this data frame option. So in that case, what you have to do is you need to create a two columns. Okay, so like this, you need to create only two columns. So now, if you look at these two columns, the first column is nothing but your target value. So suppose if you are working on a classification problem, so your target label will be there, whether it is a 0 class or 1 class, those numbers will be present 0, 1, 2, 3 like that. So this is a categorical column, or like suppose if you are working on a regression problem, it contain all the continuous values. And another column is nothing but a image ID. So it contain all the image IDs. So these are all my image IDs. Because now you are having all the images are present in single folder. This column is only report the image names. So those file names will be present in this column. Okay, so we require now two columns only. One column is image file names, second column is labels. Once if you have this kind of data frame, now what you have to do is first you have to read that data frame. So once if you read this data frame, yeah, so these things are not required because if you want to filter any classes, like if you have a particular class is having small number of samples, you can you don't want to consider those samples, you can drop it. So once if you have this data frame, then this is common. See, the image generator is common. So we did the same thing even in the folder structure also. So this image generator is common. That I am saving in data gen variable. Then I'm having two columns, right? This is a image ID column. What I'm doing here is, if you look at the Excel sheet, so it doesn't contain any .jpg extension. It only contain file name. But my folder contain .jpg extension. So that is why what I did is I applied the lambda function, and whatever the ID is there, I'm just appending the I'm concatenating the .jpg attention. Now it will be like a image ID plus a extension, whether it's a .jpg or .png. It depends on what extension is present in your folder. And second one is if it is a categorical problem, so I am converting each class because in case of categorical, each class belongs to one particular category. So if you look at here, data gen flow from data frame. So earlier we used flow from folder. Now here flow from data frame. So here you need to pass your data frame. So that is df1. Shuffle is equal to true, and you just have to mention your directory here. So the same way how we mentioned directory there, and X column and Y column. So X column is nothing but your image ID column. Y column is nothing but your target label column. Class mode is categorical if it is a category classification problem, or binary if it is a regression problem. Class mode is raw. Target size is 299 by 299, batch size is 32, and this subset belongs to training. And similarly, suppose if you want to create validation, this belongs to validation generator. Rest of things are same, so only subset will change. Okay, then yeah, rest of things are all common, so nothing I am going to change here. So here also I use an exception architecture, and I added extra customized layers and a model input. All things are same. Okay, the only difference is you are reading flow from data frame, and you need to mention that data frame name, X column and Y column. This is a simple, if you don't have any folder structure, all the images are present in one single folder. So this is the better way to go with the image classification. If you have a folder structure, then flow from directory is the better option. If you are having a small number of images, then you can go with the directly read all the images into the memory itself. Okay, you have three approaches. Either you can choose a first approach, or flow from directory, or flow from data frame. It depends upon the number of images and how the folder structures you have. Okay, so this is all belongs to image classification. Okay, so any doubts on image classification and CNN till now? I'm going to share all these IPython notebooks so that you can practice these notebooks. Even you can use it for your data sets. Like if you want to train on your data set, you can change the data set by path names and all, and you can train on your own custom data set.
Sir, what would be the data storage and in case of face recognition?
Yeah, in case of face recognition,
How we can store the data set in case of folders?
yeah, so you want to recognize the faces, so you want to classify it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so do one thing. So you can keep all the, suppose if you don't have folder structure, you can keep all the face images in one single folder, and maybe you have labels present, right? For every image you may have label.
No, sir, I have only the counts one counting.
You have only,
Countings, samples, 1, 2, 3.
so you have only samples 1, 2, 3 for every face.
No, sir, amount of data is large, but the extension of the 1, 2, 3 ID is the counting values.
Okay, ID is the counting value, underscore 1, underscore 2, something like that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Huh?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so then for every person you are having 3 images.
Yeah, like 10 to 15 samples for each person.
For each person, yeah. So for each person you are having 10 to 15 samples. Now that person is nothing but a category.
Yes, sir.
So for each person, so suppose 15 images are present. Now for those 15 images you have to give label as 0. Okay, so now for another person, suppose if you have 15 images, now for those 15 images you have to give a class as of 1. Okay, so in that way you have to label the data set. So now you have an Excel sheet, put all the first person 15 images and keep the label as 0. Now second person 15 images, keep the label as 1. So like that you can create a CSV file, then you can go with the flow from data frame option.
Okay, okay, sir.
Yeah, because you, instead of creating suppose if you have 20 persons are there, so you need to create a 20 folders. So instead of that, it's better to go with the data frame option.
Okay, okay. Sir, any pre-trained learning methods?
Yeah, so any pre-trained architectures, yeah, you can go with VGGNet because VGGNet architecture is simple. If you're having a very high resolution images, then better to go with architectures like exception or inception V3.
Okay, okay, sir. Or in case of
Recently,
in case of row registration, VG1619.
yeah.
Okay, okay, okay. Thank you, sir.
19, yeah. So recently, even we have a evolutionary architecture scheme. So which are like MaxNet and even this is the state of the architecture like efficient net. So there are multiple architectures are available in literature. So, but all these architectures are available in Keras. So you what you have to do is you just have to predict classes not work in exception model.
Okay, okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
So someone mentioned predict classes not work in exception model. So what you have to do is in case of exception, it will work. So only thing is the last output layer, you need to provide, you need to add your own layer. Okay, so it will work. So I have shown right already. See, it is like a once if you use an exception, so this is the prediction. So I added a another last dense layer which contains the number of neurons. I added my own layer, output layer. If you want to use exception for the ImageNet data, at that time you have to keep include top equal to true. Okay, then you can use for the 1000 class problem. So the output of exception is 1000 classes. Instead of that, no, I don't want 1000 classes. I want only the last FC layer like 2048 vector. Then you have to keep include top is equal to false. So in that way, you can use it and you can write the predictions.
Excuse Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So suppose if we have unsupervised, I mean, we have to use these models for unsupervised learning. In that case, how we can use them?
If you want to use it for unsupervised,
For unsupervised problems, like we don't know the class labels.
okay. So in that case, you can go with architectures like autoencoder or variational autoencoder.
Okay.
So this is like a restructuring the data. So you don't have the labels, but for every image you get a latent representation. But if you want labels, you want to learn themselves. Like you have a plenty of data, but you don't have labels available for that. But the labels will be learned from the data itself. So this is the recent state of the art, which is nothing but SimCLR. Okay, so if you can look at this work, SimCLR, this is a Siamese contrast to learning representations. This is using a self supervision. The maybe yeah, wait, I'll show the screen. It will be useful for you. So are you able to see my screen, right? So, so you're able to see my screen, right?
Yes, sir, we can see your
Yeah.
screen, sir. It's
So
visible.
this is the way we can learn the representations in a unsupervised fashion. It is like a self-supervised learning. So what is happening here is, so if you look at the image here, so the image is a dog image. After that, on dog, they are applying the data augmentation. So what is the data augmentation? I already explained, right? Data augmentation, we will get a, so it is like a cropping the image or shifting the image or rotating the image. So we are getting a multiple images when we apply data augmentation. So once if you get the data augmentation, like if you get a many images, we are passing those images to a CNN architecture. So this is CNN can be a pre-trained architecture like inception or exception. It can be anything. So we are not classifying it here. We are only taking only at the last FC layer. So what we are getting for every image, every augmented image.
Creating a large dataset, we can use the autoencoders.
Yes. So
And after using autoencoders, we can give that data to the CNN, to the any CNN architecture.
yes, no, it's no need of autoencoders here. You can learn directly from the image itself here. In this case, no need of autoencoder. So the process what we are doing here is itself every image, every augmented image we are passing to CNN. We are getting a representation of that image. Okay. So once it will get a reduced dimension for every augmented image, we are applying a multilayer perceptron. Multilayer perceptron is a simple MLP classifier or a simple shallow neural network. What we are doing here, if the two representations are same, so in the embedding space, if the two representations are attract each other, that means they are closer together. That means those two images are looking same, similar to one category. Suppose if the representations are repel each other, that means that those are varying a lot in the embedding space. That means those two images are belongs to different category. So in that way, we can label the images automatically. So this is a self-supervision way to get the labels. Okay, so this is the state of the art. So many people are trying to extend this architecture only, SimCLR.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, any further questions?
No, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah. So Krishna,
Yes. Any
we
question?
have time is available still, or it's over?
Yes, sir. 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
We have 10 minutes.
Okay. Okay.
You want to share something?
Yeah. Yeah. Because still my slides are left.
Yeah. You can. You can take more time.
Yeah. So yes, so till now we came up to transfer learning. So I have shown an example also how we can apply pre-trained architectures and we can apply on our data sets. So this is a one example, image captioning problem. So image captioning problem is like a how we can generate captions for an image. So what is happening here in image caption is, if I give image to a CNN architecture, we are taking only up to last FC layer. So the last FC layer contains 4096 neurons or 2048 neurons. So we are not considering the output layer. We are only considering before output layer. Those are nothing but a fully connected layers. So for every image, we get a representation. So it's a 4096 representation or 2048 representation. So that representation we are passing to RNN architecture. So RNN started in this FDP or yet to start? Recurrent neural networks.
No, sir.
So RNN sessions not started yet. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, so this is a RNN is like a sequential architecture. Maybe you may have the next sessions. RNN will be there. So RNN is like a sequential architecture. So what it will do is we need to pass a sentence like our caption to recurrent neural networks. But the representation, the hidden representation, we are getting from the image model. So the image features we are passing here, and we are starting from a text. So maybe once the RNN covers, then only you can understand this image captioning problem. So it is a combination of CNN plus RNN. So in case of CNN, you give a image to a convolution neural network, you get a representation for that image. Okay, maybe I'll go with object detection problem rather than image captioning problem, because you people are not aware of recurrent neural networks. So in case of object detection, I already explained, right? So what is object detection? Object detection is also a classification. The only thing is now the image contains multiple images, multiple objects, and also you need to draw the bounding boxes. If you look at this image, how many objects are present here? We have 3 dogs are present and 1 tree is present. We have pillow is present. So these are the multiple objects present. So what is our job? Our job is to classify. This is a cat, and we need to draw the bounding box as well. So suppose this is the dog, we need to classify as a dog, and also we need a bounding box. So that is a object detection problem. So what exactly it is happening here is apply a CNN to many different crops of the image. So I will explain what is a many different crops. The first thing what we have to do is we have to apply region proposals. Region proposals means, suppose if I give an image, these are the region proposals. Region proposals means you are drawing a bounding boxes on the image at a different locations. Okay, so of different scales. Show here what exactly. Okay, suppose you are having a image. So this is how the image look like. Now you want to draw region proposals. Region proposals are nothing but you are drawing the bounding boxes at a different locations. Okay, like this, of different scales. Some may be rectangular boxes, some may be squares, some may be bigger rectangular boxes. Okay, like that. So overall image, you get so many boxes. So these are the region proposals. Okay, like that. So you are drawing so many boxes so that every box may contain some information. So these boxes we can call as a region proposals. Okay, so once after getting the region proposals, so these are all the region proposals. So normally selective search algorithm, what it will give is it will provide 1,000 region proposals. In case of RCNN model, so they are drawing the 2,000 region proposals. So this is the first job. In case of RCNN model, our first job is, if I give an image, your job is to draw the region proposals. So this selective search algorithm is already there in CV2 library. So if you give the image to CV2 library, we will get this kind of region proposal. So maybe I will show how we will get a region proposals. So this is for a RCNN. Yeah, I'm showing the first part, how to get the region proposals. Okay, so this is my data set. So train labels.csv. In case of object detection, we have this is the image name, image width and height. Then what is the class? Suppose image may contain multiple classes, right? Image may contain cat, image may contain dog, image may contain pillow. We have multiple objects present in the same image. So that is why, so we have class, also where the object is located, at what coordinates, xmin, ymin, xmax and ymax. So 95, 60, x1, y1, 167, 118. This is the x2, y2. So these are the location of the coordinates where the object is present, and the image width and height and the class. So like that, the object detection data set look like. So in case of object detection, we have the image ID will be there, image width and height, and what are all the classes present in the image. And for each class, we'll get a coordinates. So we'll get a 4 coordinates, which are nothing but x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, and yeah, so this is the folder contain my images. Now what I'm doing is, so I'm reading an image. So file name is nothing but my image ID, and using CV2 I am reading the image. So first I'm showing plot plt.im show, I am showing the image, and I'm having the xmin, ymin, xmax, ymax. These are my coordinates of the image. So I'm taking those coordinates and I'm drawing a rectangular box where my object is located using those coordinates. So here also we can use the CV2 library. Now if you look at the image, see, this is the image, given image, and they also provided the coordinates, right? So using those coordinates, I draw the rectangular box. Okay, so here how I got the red color. So here in the case of rectangle, we have to pass the image, x1, y1 coordinate, x2, y2 coordinate, and I want only red color line I want to draw. So that is why I given only red. So green and blue channels are zeros, and 2 is nothing but a line width. Okay, so this is how we get a draw. So we have the image now. What is our first step? We need to get the region proposals using the selective search algorithm. Okay, so now I'm passing the image. So this is my Raccoon 2 is my image. I am passing this image to CV2 algorithm to get a region proposals. Okay, now if you can look at the number of region proposals. See how many proposals we got. So total there are 2,000 region proposals. On the entire image, we have so many bounding boxes we have drawn. So how these bounding boxes we got using the selective search algorithm. Okay, so there are different bounding boxes, and each bounding box of different scale. So some are like small bounding boxes, some may be large bounding boxes, but these are the region proposals. So everyone is clear, right? What is a region proposal? A region proposal is nothing but a small patch, okay, so which contain information is present or not, something we don't know, but it is a simple bounding box, covers some information in that. So this is the first part of RCNN. So once if you get these region proposals, what is our job now? So what we have to do is, So once if you get these region proposals, take the region here. Okay, so take every region. So now we will get a 2000 regions or 1000 regions, and we have to give the each region proposal to a CNN network. Okay, so see, every region proposal now they are fixing, they are making it to fixed size. Why we are making it to fixed size? Because when you are giving a image to CNN model, our input some image size will be fixed, because whatever the architecture you are using, based on that your input image size is fixed. So though you have multiple region proposals, each region proposal will be of a fixed size. So we will make it to fixed size. Say if you are using a VGG net, then it will be 224 by 224. So each region proposal, again we can change the size to 224 by 224. Suppose if you are using exception, again each region proposal will be resized to 299 by 299. Okay, up to here clear? Any doubts in that? Up to now, any doubts? So how to get a region proposals? What is a region proposal? And why we are changing each region proposal to fixed size?
No doubt, sir.
Yeah, once if you have this fixed size region proposals, now what is our job? We are giving this region proposal fixed size image to a CNN model. So what is a CNN? So convolution neural network. If you pass this each region proposed image to CNN, we can just classify it. Okay, so we can get 1000 classes. So we can get a class labels. Suppose if the region proposal, so whatever the image we passed, it doesn't have any information, we get a very low probability for all the classes. That means no information is present. Suppose if the image contains some information, we get a probability for that particular class high. So we can take that as a class. Okay, here we have only two options, whether information present or no information present. So based on that, we can categorize the images of all the region proposals. Say you have 2000 region proposals. Out of 2000 region proposals, so you may get maybe very few regions may have information, and the rest of the regions may not have information. So suppose if you get some few regions have information, we'll take those regions and we can draw the bounding boxes. Okay, so in that way we can optimize the model. Okay, so in this also they will apply some approaches which are nothing but IOU approach. IOU is nothing but intersection union approach. What is this exactly is, suppose if two of the region proposals are overlapping, so then the information present in these two regions are almost similar. So rather than considering the two region proposals, we can consider as a one region proposal. So using this approach, IOU. So it is like a intersection. So intersection of the area, like intersection of two region proposals by union of two region proposals. If you get so we will get some score if you follow that formula. And suppose if it is like some 0.75 or 0.78, something like that, that means 75% of the area matching. So we have that much of overlapping information. So maybe we can consider as a one region proposal, because almost 75% of the information is overlapping between the two regions. In that way, we can reduce the sum of the overlapped regions. So here, yeah, so this is the get IOU approach. So whatever I discussed, the intersection and the union approach. So it is like a among two region proposals, first to find the intersection area, then the formula is, so intersection area by, we have to get the union area. So overall area minus intersection area. So if it is following some threshold, we will consider that, otherwise we will discard that particular region proposal. Okay, then yeah, so in case of training, so I think, yeah, I'll share this notebook. This is also exactly same. So once if you get all those region proposals, yeah, look at here. So 6,400. So for every image we have, say, some 100 region proposals something. Suppose if you have 200 images, then 200 into, because every image having 100 region proposals, so 200 into 100, it will be like a 20,000 region proposals. And each image, each region proposal will be of fixed size. It will be 224 by 224 by 3. So that many will be their dimension. So these are the number of region proposals and each region proposal size. After that, yeah, so we have to apply a pre-trained architecture. So here we use VGGNet architecture. And if you look at, see here, included top is equal to true. That means I am using the output layer as well. So earlier, that is on our customized data set, but in this case, I'm using the VGGNet architecture as it is. I'm keeping the output layer as well. So output layer, it will display the 1000 classes. Okay. Then once whatever the output you are getting the VGGNet, on that prediction, finally we are adding a one custom layer here, which is nothing but a 2 class. So that means either information is present in that or not. If I give a region proposal, I have only 2 options, yes or no. Okay, so yes means object is present, no means no object is present. Okay, so then model ADAM optimizer I used, then loss is categorical cross entropy, metrics is accuracy. So rest of things are same. So this is a RCNN region based convolution neural network. So how finally it look like? So see, initially we got 2000 region proposals. Now we got a very few region proposals. In that maybe particular bounding box is capturing only the face, or some capturing the only the particular image. Okay, so here still we need to reduce the we need to increase the threshold to overcome some of the region proposals. Okay, so this is all about RCNN, and later people come up with some more approaches like faster RCNN, fast RCNN. The advantage with those coming new approaches, because if you look at here in this, first we are finding the region proposals, then we are applying the CNN. So it is like a two-stage process. Every image, first to find the region proposals, then taking those region proposals, making it to fixed sizes, we are giving it to CNN. This is like a two-step process. In case of fast RCNN, what they did is, why I have to apply to in a two-step process. First I will give image to CNN. So when I give image to CNN, I'll get a filter maps, that is like a output at the convolution layer. Now I will apply region proposals on the CNN outputs, like a convolution output. I'll consider those as a region proposal. So now you are doing only one time, so not doing 2 times. So in that way, they fasten the process. And yeah, so they come up with again faster RCNN, mask RCNN. It's depend upon the, so they optimize the way to get the object detection and even the bounding boxes as well. Yeah, so that's all from my side, and I'll share all these notebooks, image classification notebook, RCNN notebook, and whatever the slides I shared. Yeah, so if you have any questions, yeah, I can ask the questions.
Yes, is there any question?
Sir, this
Hello.
Hello.
intersection
Excuse-
over intersection over union.
Yeah.
This will this depends on which parameter.
Intersection or union.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's depend upon the threshold, like because intersection of the area, so we need to consider the pixels in that particular region.
Okay.
Yeah, so suppose we have two regions, we need to consider the intersection of the pixels in that particular two region proposals, and also you need to find the union of the two region proposals. It is like we need to talk about the pixels point of view.
So suppose if the object is moving fastly, and then
So this is for the static image. So RCNN.
static image.
Yeah, static
Okay.
image.
For moving object, for tracking any moving object, which algorithm is?
Yeah, so in case of object tracking or video detection, right? In that case, we can consider video as a frame, right? So whenever again video comes as a frame, again it is an image.
Okay, suppose if I want to track an enemy missile and we want to destroy that in real time. So for that, which one is the fastest tracking to destroy that enemy missile?
Yeah, I am not aware of much on video detection problems because I usually worked on image detections. So the thing is, as far as I know, that we can convert video problem into image problem. So it is like every video will be converted into frames. So now you have a sequence of frames.
Okay, so people talk about this YOLO algorithm. Only look once.
YOLO is nothing but you look only once.
Yeah, so different versions has been proposed till the date, and
Yeah, YOLO V3 is the latest version. Yeah, YOLO V3 and SSD. SSD is also similar to YOLO V3, single shot detection algorithm.
okay.
So those we can use. Those are like tools available for us, like YOLO V3 and single shot detection algorithms. People are using right now.
And what are the limitations if I want to implement on some embedded hardware and any embedded AI computing hardware platform? So which one will be, I mean, limitations according to algorithm development? What we have to keep in mind before implementing on any hardware platform?
Sir, I'm not aware of hardware related. Yeah. So
Okay.
only people use the Raspberry Pi, and the YOLO V3 comes with Raspberry Pi. So if you want to apply on IoT or hardware platform, so that's only I know. But limitations, yeah, I'm not aware of much.
Okay, sir. Fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
So suppose I'm not having those, coordinates with my images,
Okay.
and I want with this architecture.
Yeah. So if you don't have the labels, like if you don't have the coordinates for the image, so yeah, so the option is you can go with the pre-trained models, right? You can use a mask RCNN. So mask RCNN is already a pre-trained architecture. So you can load the mask RCNN model, and you can give your data set. So it can plot automatically on your images. The only thing is you need to validate it, whether you are getting the boxes correctly or not. So like how we are using the VGGNet, exception net, we have the even mask RCN and kind of faster RCN. These architectures are available. You just load those architectures and you can pass your image. You get the burning boxes on your image.
Okay, so I have another question regarding the tumor data set.
Yeah.
So suppose we don't have the signal and with a mixture of true and false images.
Okay. Ankit, your voice is
how we can distinguish the true and the false images from that data set and then use it for our purpose.
Ankit, there's some background noise coming. So
Can I write it in?
yeah, you can post it here. Yeah. So actually, so from my side, it's not compulsory that we have to apply CNN on the your data sets, because we have the recently GCN is available. So which is nothing but graph convolution neural networks. We can apply on any unstructured data. So because CNNs are only we can use for the structured data, right? Image will follow 2D structure. But in case of graph follow a non-Euclidean structure. So the recent state-of-the-art models, people are using the graph CNNs. So if you can convert your data into a graph format, then you can apply graph convolution on that. Suppose, yeah, we don't have yes and no images in folder, but all the data. So what we can do to categorize them? Yes. So in that case, you can use a flow from data frame option. So you don't need to categorize it. So you can use this flow from data frame option. The only thing is you need a CSV file. So that CSV file contains 2 columns. So one column is representing your image ID, like image name, and the second column is nothing but your label. So that is required. So though we don't have any folder structure, but that file is required for you. So file contains image ID and a class label. So these 2 columns will be required. Okay, CSV file from Excel sheet. So we are not having labels. So you have only, so you are having only the images. So what kind of images those are? So those images are related to any natural. Okay, let's say tumor image. No, we can't say let's say tumor images. So if it is related to domain natural image data set, we can directly use pre-trained models. If it is related to medical domain, the only thing is you need to give these images to third party or something, Amazon Mechanical Turk, and you have to label it. Because we don't have any pre-trained models on medical sets are still not available. Or one thing is, yes, you can go with the SimCLR and you can train your tumor images. That is also one way. Yeah. So any further questions?
Hello, sir. I'm Anirudh. I have one
Yeah.
question. We have in the predicted image that you were going through the RCNN. It has got
Yeah.
lot of bonding boxes, right? So we are
Yes.
supposed to put only one bonding box at the at the last time. So what are we supposed to do then?
Yeah. So for that, actually, in IOU, you need to mention the threshold value. So initially in IOU, you need to mention the threshold value. Based on that, many regions proposals can be reduced. Later, you can take only those region proposals after applying the IOU, and you have to give it to the CNN model. Actually, in my case, I given only option as a 0 and 1. So if completely match, then only consider the region proposal. So that's the reason I got many region proposals. Got it right. It's only if you completely match, then only I'm considering those region proposal. Even if 90% interaction is there, overlapping is there, still I'm not considering as a overlapping one. So that is why I got many region proposals. You can fix the threshold value. So based on that, you get a proper region proposal. So you can only get on the particular image. And also it is dataset specific. Hi, so any further questions?
I think there is no question. So we thank you all, sir, for your nice lecture
Yeah.
and demonstration.
Yeah.
We thank you again.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, maybe you can, yeah, you can reach me out here. So I'm